Hello and welcome back to the Captain's Table with the Inforunners, Execute Algrid and myself. This is the question answer session. If you missed the session where we talked about the 600i, we've talked about the different IAE concept ships and what to look out for at IAE, you'll see it right above Execute's head if you're watching this after the fact. And that episode should be live already. And the episode, this is the question answer session for it, which should be live right after that. So hopefully you've rolled right in after that question, that whole thing. But with that all being said, let's start answering some of these questions. And remember, youtube.com/theinforunners for more content like this. And of course, subscribe, like this video, and spread the love. Come join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, and ask your own questions live. Okay, first question.
Don't forget I was going to say, don't forget on a Thursday, catch Inforunners live stream.
At 4:30 Eastern, yes.
Transport it across to Paul's channel when we
office hours. All right, so we've got 27 questions. I'm going to mute some of this. I'm going to pause the questions.
27?
Only 27, yeah. All right, so Aurelius asks, is $150 mole still possible, do you think, at the next IAE with the CCU game?
Say that again.
Do you think $150 mole would be possible playing the CCU game?
The lower the ship price, the harder it is to do. You'd have to have a really good bunch of CCUs to pull that off. My default answer would be no, just because the big savings don't come into around about where the Hercules is. Yeah, that's where you get the big ones, like $40.
That's probably right.
Like that. Yeah.
But having said that, at IAE, it will be possible to get a LTI mole using CCUs.
That's
maybe
an advantage,
small discount, but not much. Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Shimpasta, who asks, is it safe to say we're all considered Star Citizen? Citizens? No. Because the way that Al and I will tell you this, the way that the citizenship system works in Star Citizen for the UAE is you have to actually have done service to the Empire. That can be community service, can do donations. You could have done, like, there's one citizen who we know, so it's Xi'an by birth, obviously Xi'an, an alien, who got citizenship because they helped negotiate the peace treaty, or the Huxaw Treaty. They helped with the UAE. They helped them with, like, translations and kind of negotiations with the Xi'an government. So as a thank you, they were given UAE citizenship. So there is possible ways of doing
a mole in the UAE citizenship. There you go.
Yeah. And there are Banu, lots of Tavaran. There's plenty of citizens out there. But the easiest way to do it is still the military, because it's not guaranteed, but it's you're almost certain to do it if you have a valuable service, and if you've used exemplary service in the UAE military, you will leave with citizenship. But you are not given citizenship just because you were there.
And if you go to prison at the present, you lose citizenship. Now, I know when we did the Q&A with Dave, and that was raised, he says, yeah, we're not sure how that's going to work at the moment, and it's still in flux. But currently, prisoners don't have citizenship. They're civilians. And civilians can, I think, be local governors, but they can't go any higher than that, whereas citizens can become senators and all the rest of it.
Yeah, you can think of it as civilians can participate and have a bunch of the same rights as I think all the same rights as citizens in their local sphere. So if you're, like, born on a planet, and you're a citizen, or you're a civilian, but you still have all of the rights on that planet. You just can't participate or hold office in the federal level of it, which sounds like a bad idea, but planets are often left much to their own devices. The federal government, or the central government of the UAE, doesn't do a lot for the average planetary governments. They let them deal with a lot of their own stuff. So,
of course, my hope is that being a civilian isn't as bad as being a civilian in Rome. Like,
yes,
Rome, you say something, you're causing a riot. If you're a civilian, they'll beat you, they'll whip you. If you're a Roman citizen, they're not allowed to do it until you've had a trial.
I need to ask a quick question, Paul. what do you when you post it on YouTube? You call this one the question and answers. What do you call the first one?
The discussion. Call it the discussion.
Discussion.
Yeah.
I'm making a community post for you. Just telling
Okay.
people there's an impromptu Inforunners episode that they can go watch
Okay.
on your channel.
Yeah.
As a civilian, you can't vote. That's right.
Yeah.
At
you
least not
can
in the
vote.
UE. Things. Only at the local level, I think. It's
And
weird,
even
isn't it?
though the players can vote for a lot of these bigger things, that's just mostly CIG wanting us to participate in helping to build the lore. That doesn't mean that we're all citizens. It just, you know. And the easiest way to do so in the game, as far as we know, is to play Squadron 42 and beat it. Next question comes from Mason, who asks, what does the table think will be the best and worst features of the Corsair? Start with you, Al. What do you think the best and worst features are?
Based on the original design document, currently the ability of all the weapons, including the turrets, to fire forward, because that means that because they deliberately had the side turrets as being only able to defend the side or below, they're going to balance something else. And given it already flies worse than a Connie, or the ship, or the Aquila, and it's got science stuff, but it's not as good as the Aquila, and it had medium armor, they're going to do something to change it. So that's probably it. And as execute, probably would say the wings, because you lose weaponry.
Yeah, basically it's an upgun Connie now, but if you think about how the wings fold out, it gives it a bigger footprint to be shot. And obviously its weakness, I think, will be in atmosphere. The wings will, if you lose the wings, it's going to cause a lot of problems. But in space, I think it'll be relatively the same. But yeah, just it's a bigger footprint that can be hit. So yeah, again, as Agrid kind of alluded to, it's kind of hard to actually see it in game. But we'll do a buyer's guide on it when it pops out, won't we? So
yeah, I would say the advantages is that it's a Drake ship, and the disadvantages is that it's a Drake ship. So any of the advantages you tend to see with Drake ships, which is lots of firepower, straight line speed, cheap, and probably easy to repair down the road. Goods. Bads, it's got little to no safety features. I don't think it even does it have escape pods? I don't think it does even have escape pods.
No, it's Drake. Come on.
Yeah.
So
that was a question we had in the stream yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you get it? How does it get out? How does the lower pilot get out?
You don't.
You don't. It's Drake.
You get good. That's how you get out. But
you put in your Titanic cassette tape and press play and just listen.
It's been a pleasure surfing with you, sir.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be a death trap if you're not careful with it. Is the other problem about it. So, all right.
I used to think Drake ships would be awesome because not being necessarily quick or good, I always thought if it's a bigger ship in a fight, getting to the escape pods is going to take time, and I'll never get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so being in a ship that's got no escape pods, you just say, well, I'm not going to try. I'm just going to try to I might win if I stay.
You don't have the temptation to quit. You know, you have. That's right. You have to play it out.
One thing I'll say is they have kind of set the standard for habitation in that ship, and I now expect the reworked Connie, when they eventually do it, to exceed this Corsair. It has to be better now. So my plan is this is my evil plan, by the way. So I'm going to pick up a CCU when the Corsair comes out, from the Corsair to the Connie, and just sit on it. And whatever is better of the two, that'll be the daily driver that I type of keep. Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Outlaw Knight Zero, who asks, "What's your favorite ship still in concept, and what do you think the most useful ship in concept is?" I think it would be a tie from all of us, which is the actually
technically the Endeavor and the Crucible are still in concept, so we'll just leave it there and move on.
Yeah. We talked about the previous one, but not in this episode. But for those who don't know, we basically we must buy is the Crucible, especially if you have a large fleet. The Crucible's a must buy, and then a good ship, the best ship, and I think for its value for concept right now is the Endeavor. But,
yeah, and I'll just alliterate base Endeavor. You don't need the modules in a game.
Yeah. And that's generally because the price of all the modules are less than like $100 I think the most expensive is $100. Even if the price of those tripled up to 300, they're still going to be easier to earn in game than, say, any other. They're going to be as easy to earn as a Hurricane or a Hornet or something like that. So glad to see you, Jensen. Awesome to see you've got a Crucible.
Good
job. Yeah, one thing when we do look at org fleets, it's one thing I notice. It's the number of Crucibles are just so out of whack compared to. But what I guess our hope. I'm putting words in your mouth again. Sorry, but you tell me. Our hope is when that ship actually releases, it has an uptick.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
I almost guarantee it. Especially since we're pretty I'm fairly certain that we won't see it until around or after Pyro. So when
I'm not sure you're right there, because be honest, repair is literally just the opposite of salvage. They've got salvage there already, so it's just
but I mean I don't think because they've been having struggles with it because it was been off and on the progress tracker for a bit. So I don't think I think the earliest we'll see it is the end of this year, just because timing. And I don't know when 4.0 is coming out. I think the earliest we would see it is at the end of next year, because I don't even think 3.18 is going to make it this year based off of their current track record. So
That said, though, the version of it that you could release into the game is literally like what the landing pads are now in game, where you just land on it and you click it. It allows you to go into that menu and repair and resupply.
Yeah,
and all
they
that.
won't do that.
That would work. No, they won't, but they could.
They could.
When you're looking at repair, like at the moment, with the only ship that's got the capability to do the spray paint reverse of scraping is a Crucible.
Actually, the hand tool.
Well, in terms of ships. Whereas if you're looking at the Vulcan could do it, but everything it does is a drone, and they haven't got drones in. Whereas the Crucible at least doesn't, even though it's got drones, it doesn't need them. I hope that they keep Scarab on whatever they do with the Crucible. I hope they keep a Scarab, and I hope it's still got that ability they talked about in one of the streams that we found as we've rewatched it, that the Scarab could be detached and could still repair stuff while you're off doing something else. And that was when we saw that in the video, our mind, as we saw it a second time. I forgot that.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Del Ener, who asks, do you guys expect a price increase for the reworked 600i variants? Generally speaking, I would always expect increase. I do not think we will see an increase at IAE this year. I think it will eventually go up, but all ships will eventually go up. What do you think?
I think my response is it kind of actually vertifies at price now. I don't think it needs to increase. I think that's probably why it's getting a rework, to be honest, sooner than it kind of really needs to, is because maybe the sales have been affected because it seems too expensive for what it is. And then you got people like us that are sitting there going, this ship is bad value, don't buy it. So maybe they're trying to fix it so it can sell better at that price. I don't know, Agrid, what do you think? I just think it doesn't. It's not, the price increase is not justified because it actually now makes it the value it should be.
I would hope it doesn't get a price increase because for the same reasons you said. I think at present it's too high a cost, especially when they brought it out and it was a Connie competitor. It was Origin saying this is how you do a luxury exploring ship or a luxury explorer or an explorer ship, and it's a ship that's twice the size of a Connie, and the price was put it up there way above a Connie, and yet the contents that it had was, the interior was crap. It looked great on the outside, but the interior was crap. And so I'd like to hope that when they fix it up, it won't get too much of an increase. But if they add so much new stuff to it to make it a really good Explorer, say for the Explorer variant, and it make it really close to as a really good underneath the Carrack competitor, there would be grounds to see that going up in price just because of that. But
Paul, don't do a question cut off, and me and Agrid will just answer them in the community tab if you want.
Okay, sure. I'll remove
any questions people have. Me and Agrid will just answer them and check them up in the community tab.
Okay. Yeah. Next question, is okay. Do you think the 600i will increase with IAE 2952? I don't think so.
I think we kind of answered that.
We literally just answered that. Okay. We hope not.
We hope not. Foggy0822 asks, if you buy a 609 now, will it automatically get the new version? Yes. The old version won't exist once they update it. Yep. So, okay, this is a good question. Access says, do you believe the 890 will be reworked as well?
I think the Origin fanboys will not let that lie, because there's some pretty, like, I would always tell you, I always bitch about those stairs till the cows come home. There's just something wrong with those stairs.
I have to admit that the stairs are a problem. If you're a rich dude and you've got your trophy handbag on your side, you want that trophy to be able to walk up the stairs with you, not 5 steps behind.
I don't think it's a rework. Maybe it is just that atrium. Like, now I look at the whole 890 jump, you don't really need the whole. Maybe the pool room where the pool is, because you got to bring it up to the same standard as the 600 eyes pool, and the stairs. So it's not a full rework, but I'd like to see like an upgrade or a refit or whatever you want to call it. But the stairs for me have always just been ugly, and I've often said, like, one of the solutions I said was, why don't they have them animated and move as you go up, and then they fold away and then they're just not there, so you get more space, not less.
I remember when they first had the grotto, where the pool was, that kind of rock gardeny type swimming pool, and they ditched that because it was just, I think, either too much bits and pieces of, but what is the count for the pixels or triangles or whatever. But yeah.
All right. This is an interesting question. Chukas asks, wishful thinking, but do you think we will see the Polaris reconcept? John Crew mentioned this at IAE. Mentioned this IAE. Possibly. I mean, they've obviously, because they definitely shortchanged us on the ships of ship talk during CitizenCon. And even at IA, or even during the Star Citizen Live, they seem to imply that there's a huge ship panel for IAE, which I get the reason why they do that. It's because it's the ship sale,
makes sense.
The ship's thing. So
but yeah, if you have to cut something off, what makes more sense to shortchange in CitizenCon? Planetary stuff or ship stuff, which you can talk about in IAE naturally.
No
brainer.
I think the Polaris is kind of really weirdly linked to the Banner Merchantman, and I've had. I remember I was watching a Board Gamer streamer the other day. He actually reckons the Banner Merchantman's not coming to Invictus. IAE next year. And I was like, "Are you serious? Like 12 months away?" But like, if it was, for example, then that's when I'd expect the Polaris to be. And I think hearing about the Polaris will actually kind of be indicative of where the Banner Merchantman's coming.
Yeah, I think that's as well.
But would you care if the Banner Merchantman didn't come out until next year?
Not really.
No,
this would be better.
It'll be better.
You'll hear this from all three of us, which is if we like ships, we want them to be released last, because that means they're the best quality, best standard, everything. We talked about that in the discussion section, so go watch that.
Yep.
But for those who are wondering why the Polaris needs a reconcept, is because it was the last tail end of the generation of ships that sucked, where they were like did not know what they were doing when it came to concepts versus the full standards, and now they have a good full standard that they've been built on that's a lot easier for them to work with. So I don't think the Polaris will change that much externally, but it'll definitely change internally. Although they might grow or shrink a little bit, but not that much, because they tend to not do that these days anymore. But all right. Next question comes from Foggy8022, who asks, is there a type of wet nav class of ship called the Cutter? Okay, I'm just going to, he was asking a question, not using the right way. Yes, the Cutter, there is a type of, there's a type of ship called the Cutter, like in the Coast Guard uses a ship called Coast Guard Cutters in the US, which are basically the same concept. Small patrol boats.
Kind of need badges for that one, because he works in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
He'd be able to tell you that straight away.
They're coastal ships. They're usually better than like small shuttles or ferries, but worse than like naval vessels. And they can be combat related, but they're usually coastal patrol ships is what they are.
And if you go back to the Napoleonic period, they'd have been bigger than your longboat, but kind of ships the little boats that have had on the handling the ships themselves than they'd use. So
Yeah, you'd have.
Aren't they just a rowboat? Is that what
They're
they
bigger.
are? Like, am I just looking around? Okay.
They're bigger.
rowboat,
yeah.
maybe with a sail or something like that. Yeah.
You might have a cutter that would be attached or like trail behind a bigger ship as with a line, and they'd use that. Like,
So like the whaling rowboats.
yeah,
They used to have sails on them as well.
Like
yeah.
like a 2-deck.
Okay.
It's like a 2-deck version of a whaling boat, like a 2-deck
Okay.
version with those things.
Smaller, but yeah.
All right. Aimless asks, is the Endeavor base without modules a bad idea? No, that's what we would suggest. Don't buy the modules with cash. Buy them in game. They'll be easier to earn.
Yeah, just treat them like fighters because they're not going to maximize in value.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yeah.
Face Kid asks, do you still think we're getting the free Best in Skin PTV for IAE?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but I don't think
I don't think we get. So what they said was that that they accidentally leaked a best in show PTV. So I think everyone's getting the PTV for free, and they said that when they do the rework next year, everyone will be getting a skin for free.
I don't know if they said, because I asked that and Jake corrected me saying we're not giving everyone a PTV for free. Everyone who has
That's
a PTV,
strange.
everyone who has a PTV will get a best in show. So if you have a PTV this year, you will get a best in show next year.
Maybe they're rolling it back because there was a leak on Reddit because someone posted it to the store and it said best in show edition PTV.
Yeah.
And the price was free.
Yeah.
So maybe that was before they deleted it from the store. They were like, oh yeah, we're gonna. Oh, maybe that's what it was. Oh, it could go that way. But then again, like if they've announced that there's a skin, you can always just pick up a PTV for $15 and it's a rework. So you do the math, you know.
By the way, chat questions are back open again. So if you want to ask us questions, feel free. Because we're actually chugging through a lot of these a lot faster.
Which is surprising for because
yeah, because usually we go on tangents. So Monster Avi asks, do you think the 600i will get the jump now this IAE or after IAE? They said they only had done concept work, and how high will it go? We'll get the jump.
I think
he's
jump
talking
in
about
price.
Price, yeah, we already talked about that, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already answered that. Aurelius asks, do you think the Gemini to Endeavor CCU, what do you do with a Gemini to Endeavor CCU or the other one?
You just sit on them because they cost $10, right? So if you're not sure you want an Endeavor or a Crucible, when you buy that CCU, it essentially locks in that price. So they can't. So say the Endeavor or the Crucible goes up in price, or for example, the Crucible releases, it may jump by, let's say for argument's sake, $50. That means that you essentially have already got that CCU, so you've actually locked in the old price of $350. So you can then build a ship. So take an LTI token or just any ship and upgrade it up into a Gemini that then allows you to apply that CCU that you had for $10, and all of a sudden it's an Endeavor or a Crucible for $350 instead of the new price. So you're locking in the old price essentially.
That's what we're
doing. And the key is just make sure you keep that $10 CCU in your hangar, not melt it and put it in your
not melt it. Yeah, because if you melt it, it'll go away. They will change the price after the fact. So
it's basically a $10 investment is the way to look at it.
Yeah.
To hedge your bets, I guess is another way to call it. Too.
Monster Avi asks, any speculation on the pricing for the new mining ship? Well, it's a large ship, right? What's the cost of the mole? $375?
I've allocated for my own budgeting funding for the gas miner and for the land miner $600, and I've based that on the fact that the Orion costs $575, and I would expect, because newer ships seem to have a upmark in price, that it would be more. But you got to remember it's technically a large ship, so what you're looking at is, I think the biggest large ship we have currently is technically the Carrack. From a metrics perspective, I'm going here, Agrid, so I know I could hear him going reclaimer, but no, it's the metrics perspective. Oh, good. Maybe I'm thinking of Edison then. Sorry, but anyway, but yeah, the Carrack is the biggest. Yeah. from a metric standpoint,
I
at
think
that $600.
I think technically the Carrack is a capital ship because it has one capital component, but I guess what you're saying.
Well, it's the biggest ship that fits in the large metric hangar, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going based off that, and that's at $600. So I'm kind of going, well, that's where the other two, well, at least one of them is going to sit. The landminers are large. Obviously, the Nebula is a capital, so that'll probably go higher again.
Nebula being executes. Name for the gas mining.
The gas.
Yeah, so it's just easy. It's just easy to call because that's what it's going to do. It's going to go around like the Orion sucks up big asteroids. This thing's just going to go around and suck up gas nebula and stuff like that. So that's why I call it a nebula. But whatever.
In terms of the pricing for the large mining vehicle or ship, it'll be priced somewhere between the Mole and the Orion.
Yeah, that's actually a really clever way to look at it. That makes a lot of sense. How dare you make sense, Alfred?
Yeah. The next because our garage makes sense. It doesn't mean you have to start getting rude. Now, old man, be quiet.
So what is it? So the mole's 315 and 575. So there you go. So what 450 sounds like a self bet.
450,
something like that.
And Foggy asks, how much does the Orion cost? 575 standalone.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a really good price for it to be, actually, because it kind of puts it around the 400, the 600 eyes, and then we need more ships in that price point.
Yep, we need more ships in the medium price point, like the $100 to $200 range, and we need more ships in the in that $300 or the $400 to $500 range in terms of fleshing out that size. Shimpasta asks, do you think the Endeavor will increase at IAE? No, I do not believe the Endeavor is going to increase at this IAE.
But that when it does, we're all going to be like, oh shit, because we've been saying it for years. Like at some point, that thing's going to jump.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't, as I said, $10 CCU, even if you don't like the ship, when it does jump, you can use it for something to save money on another ship. It's that simple.
I see it as take it, take the view that the Endeavor and the Crucible are going to go up every year. Every sale, they're going to go up. And if you want one, grab that CCU to it ASAP. Because you never know.
I think it's the last thing that's kind of like the especially the Endeavor. The last thing was what happened to the Banner Merchantman. Essentially, we're looking at that going from a ship that's at minimum potentially from $250 to $750. So that's a $500 gain. Now you imagine that on the Endeavor, and as Paul just said, this is going to a Bengal-sized ship. I would be, possibly, right? I would say at least that's going to $1,000. So I would say that is at least the same level of gain. Yeah. I think are we in agreement there? I don't want to put words in your boy's mouth.
No,
so it's the last thing that's got the same potential.
It's a Banner Merchantman. It's just the Banner Merchantman all over again because it's so old. It's about the same age as the Banner Merchantman too. So
and I see the Banner Merchantman. Excess 750. That's the minimum price. I reckon it could even go as higher than an 890. So,
So at the very what we're trying to say is you're taking $10 to head a betch on a $500 gain, and I think most people, and I don't even gamble, right? Most people would take that bet because it's $10. You got. By the way, you could just melt it later if you don't get that gain. So there is literally, you just put it to something else.
But I think the other thing the other thing to think in terms of it is as those ships increase in their cash value, theoretically that means their in-game value is going to be an exponential leap as well. And so earning them in game is going to take forever.
What's the former ship for the CCU token? The Gemini? Yeah, the Starfarer Gemini is what you use for the token.
I answered him in chat, but yeah.
All right, so Overcast asks, farming or agriculture ship? Thoughts on who would make it? Argo seems weird to me. Misk. Because they already make the Endeavor, which has the harvest pods and those sorts of things. Misk would
don't know.
And they do industrial farming is a thing.
Algrid, my brain goes to Consolidate Outland.
Could be that too.
Yeah. Now that's a possibility. Execute, but as everyone knows, old man, I've got my ranch down on Hurston, And so, clearly,
He's so old he
man
forgets where he lives. Right, that's great.
Yeah.
that just means that it's going to be a ship commissioned by old man Hurston from Hurston Dynamics, and it's going to be a Hurston ship. Yeah.
There we go. Hurston ship. Old man Al Hurston's been predicting a Hurston ship for several years now, and it hasn't come out yet.
And they keep bringing out new weapons,
Yeah.
And he's no. Where's my ranch ship? Where's my ranch ship?
But I would say Consolidated Outland or MISC would be the two. Would be the two of the options.
Yep. Oh, of course, even though we think that, they're going to make it Argo, or they'll make it or Grey Cat.
I'm going to throw this out there. You tell me, because of the cargo stuff, what about Crusader as well? You could have they've got that. So the three that kind of fall under, well, there's four for industry for me. You've got Crusader, Argo, MISC, and Consolidated Outland. And then you have outliers like Drake when it goes into salvage and stuff like that, when it shares with piracy. I don't know, you guys tell me. I'm just going, what are the potentials? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying if you were ever going to have outliers and stuff like that. Like, well, put it this way. I thought RSI was an outlier for mining, and now we're getting two of them. So,
I can understand why they went those three ships. Like, I know we were saying, why wasn't it this? I understand why they've done it, because they've got the three mining ships, and it just means they're able to use those assets for whichever ship they've got.
Yeah, they already have the RSI. Will have an RSI miner, and they already have the Argo miner and it's a MISC miner. So
it just means, hey, we can rip the assets and recycle. So it makes sense. But yeah, it should have been Grey Cat. But
yeah. Oh, by the way, So these are the two things I want to put forward as a community. If they keep the RSI ship, oh wait, hang on. So I would like to make a push for us to change it to Grey Cat. If that doesn't work, we then make a push to that it has to be called the RSI Strut.
The RSI Strut. All right. Next question comes from. Go ahead.
To go back onto that. What ship would be the agricultural ship? What is the company that does all the agriculture now? I've just forgotten.
Oh, Rasasabi or something like that.
Yeah,
Riari, that's it. Yeah.
Riari, but also the company that does the trade company that does Big
Terra
Benny's
Mills?
and
Terra Mills.
Terra Mills could be Terra Mills.
So that'd be really cool to see like a collab with one of those. You know how we saw the like the Gemini. So maybe Consolidated Outland or Crusader joins up with the Riari, and you get the Riari.
Consolidated Outlands makes a lot more sense because Consolidated Outland is itself in Bremen, and Bremen used to be the major breadbasket of this empire. It used to be. It's sort of kind of going away from that now, but it definitely still has that.
Well, isn't Terra Mills still on
those giant discs? So it's a ship with a giant rotating disc that flies through space that grows plants. Oh wow, that looks sick.
Isn't Terra Mills still based on Bremen?
No, it used to be Bremen Mills. It used to be Bremen Mills, and
that's right. It used to be Bremen, and they went bust, and
because a giant explosion destroyed their.
Terra Mills is on Terra. Duh.
Yeah, and so Terra Mills, which was a smaller company, bought up Bremen Mills, and saved it.
And basically every fast food machine we've got in game is owned by Terra Mills.
Yeah, Pips, Benny's, Buster Bars, all of those are made by Terra Mills. So
that's actually someone there said a Drake farmer ship for drugs, but I'm actually thinking you could actually make that like both a farmer and smuggling ship that for Drake. That actually makes a lot of sense now when I visualize it.
What you would call it is a Drake science ship. Is what it would be, but it would really be a farm / smuggling ship is what it'd be.
Well, what's the name of it though? Like, because I'm trying to think into that, the weapons thing.
The Drake Darwin.
It's now it's a Drake kitchen.
Drake kitchen. What is the Drake mess? The Drake mess.
Yep.
That's what you call it.
Yeah.
The Drake jokes write themselves with that one. So
the Drake Blue. I don't know.
I don't know. I think the Drake Darwin is a good.
Winnebago. That's a good one.
Winnebago.
I was going to call it the SRV, but the name's taken. But yeah.
All right. So Mason asks, I currently have a Carrack, Hammerhead, and Liberator. Should I keep these three, or should I consider trading them in for a Kraken? The Liberator, if you have those three, getting a Kraken, if you melt those, you would have a lot better. You would have good loaners. The only one that would be a little off would be the Kraken or the Carrack. because the Hammerhead you need people for anyways, and the Liberator is not a good ship if you're already looking for a Kraken. The Kraken does already what the Liberator does.
If you're looking for a carrier, you're not looking for a Liberator. Liberator's a transport ship.
The outlier there for me, without knowing what he wants to do in game, is the Hammerhead. For $25, you can get to the Polaris, which is a much better proposition. That's the one I would go for. Like, you're going to spend $25 and you double the size of your ship.
Yeah, and you get a ship like a mini fighter, because the Polaris has the fighter bay. So
yeah, and I mean, and if you like the Carrack, as much as some people hate it, if you like the exploration aspect, you melt your Carrack and you get a Kraken with the other ships, and that's all you got. You've got a Kraken. When you've got your Carrack, you've also got an Ursa and a C8 as well.
Yeah.
So you've actually got that, and so. Yeah, it never is an easy thing just to say, oh, get this, get that. And whenever we do fix my fleet, we always do try to tailor them to the individual, and that's why we always start off. What are the 3 possessions you want? What things do you want to do?
Yeah.
How many people do you play with? How many people do you expect to play with? What's the biggest ship you think you can run or do? And
look in chat. That is the best name ever for a Drake
Bake.
ship.
The Drake Bake.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well,
it wouldn't be called the Drake Bake. It'd be called the Drake Baker or the Drake Bakery or something like that. But yeah,
that's so good.
Perfect.
So good. Yeah. The Drake Shake and Bake. No.
Shake and Bake. All right, next.
Just shake, because that'll work too. The Drake Shake, but anyway, because it's like 2 steps removed. But anyway,
Logarithian asks, should I upgrade to Vulture before IAE, or is there a better ship upgrade? My Nox 2. I currently have a Misk, a Freelancer Miss, a Saber, an Arrow, and a Hull B. Well, if you want to do salvage, you don't have salvage. Yeah. If you want to do some salvage, because you don't have a salvage ship in that list, just a Freelancer Miss, a Saber, an Arrow, and a Hull B. And we'll tell you right now, which is, why do you have 2 ships that do the exact same thing? The Arrow and the Saber.
And if you say to us, oh, my key professions are exploration and dogfighting and bounty hunting, we're going, why have you got those ships?
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's never easy just to say, oh, which ship should I melt?
The sheer number of times we see people say, my favorite ship is the Reclaimer or X or something like that. And then it's like, but you don't have that ship, but you have 20 other ships. What is wrong with you? Is really
my favorite profession is mining. And you go, where's your mining ship? Yeah. Or I hate doing cargo, and they've got every cargo ship that you can think of. And you think,
yeah. So in relation to the Vulture, though, I've upgraded to a Vulture, but I have a full upgrade path above that to turn it into a Corsair. So, and I went from, I was lucky enough to get a referral Dragonfly earlier on in the year that Nublitz helped me get. So that's what my plan is. So it's a similar plan to what yours is. But just remember what we showed earlier today about scale. So I would not be planning to get a lot of little, like a Prospector and a Vulture and a Vulcan and a Terrapin and all those little singular ships. You are better off to roll them together and pick your favorite profession. So let's just say, for argument's sake, yours was salvage. Get the Reclaimer, because then you can use the Reclaimer to very quickly get yourself a Prospector and all those other little small ones back.
Yeah, but for instance, right now having a Miss, a Saber, and an Arrow, those are all combat ships. And like, if you say, oh, I want to have friends that play out and do combat, then why do you have the Arrow and the Saber? The Miss is a soloable ship.
Get yourself a Redeemer.
Yeah, Redeemer is a great ship for that sort of.
I'll tell you, it's his favorite ship. He knows everything about it.
I hate that ship, but if you're going for that kind of combat, it's already got all that stuff built in.
Yeah, if you're going for more than
once
two
it gets
people,
its lore, and they say it was designed by Paul Shelley, you will love that ship. It'll be fine.
I will have to. If they took my fan canon lore for the Redeemer and they made that, they tweaked it a little bit and made it lore, it would have to be my favorite ship, because literally they took my idea. But
so the 2 people I've got to get we've got to get in contact with David Haddock, and we've got to get in contact from someone from the Shipskin team. I want to make a charity skin that Paul can give to people that they can, whenever Paul's doing like a charity drive, a 24-hour live stream, something like that, it comes available on the store, and all proceeds from that skin go to whatever charity event Paul is doing, and you could even open that up to any concrete trader, to be honest with you. But but it's just a tip of the hat to Paul, and it's some kind of neon skin that's got AstroPub colors for the Redeemer. I think that those two things, and even make it so the Redeemer's available to purchase when he's doing that. So CIG get the money from the Redeemer, but the skin that goes to charity, and I reckon that's a win-win. You know,
I agree, but I think I also honestly think that that's a great way that they could get content creators some love if they really wanted to like do a content creator program, which I know they've talked about for many years, which is skins that will be done for charity. So you can buy like the Inforunners skin, and then all that stuff is donated to charity. So it's not helping it's not helping the content creator. It's not like they get the money. CIG is not trying to use the name of a content creator to generate their own money. They're using it for charity, but they get goodwill, and people can get skins for this sorts of things.
And if you did a bunch of different content creators, you could have little competitions off against each other. You know, like the little riff stuff and who raised more and stuff like that. You could have an Algrid in Endeavor. You could have an Execute Reclaimer. You know, a board game, a Carrick. I've gone through. I know a lot of the content creators and their favorite ships because I helped Grim do that video he did. Right, so you could go back through. There was an Eradicator, Redeemer. There was DG360 Nautilus. Like it goes on and on and on. So and for the time it takes them to make the skins, I don't think it's that much effort. But the potential for good is way up there.
All sorts of good, not just good, but good marketing. Good for helping out charities, good for PR. It's great for PR, you know, and it gets everyone hyped. You'll get free marketing because those creators will then promote it and try to hype it a little bit more and get more people to, because it's, you know, just a cool thing. So, but yeah, people are asking about the F7A skin, for instance, the upgrade kit for the F7A. That was done for veterans charity.
But that got a lot of blowback at the time, and the blowback. So this is the thing, right? So this is where it becomes tricky, right? Because the blowback was because they picked a US only charity, right? If they just changed that to if you were no. You could make it even simpler. So because they wanted to do the military stuff, right? They want to do military charity. So what you do is if you purchase it in your country, it goes to a military charity in your country. And I think that would solve all the problems. Yes, that does create a little bit of extra work for CIG. But the other thing is they can palm that off to us, and we can literally say this goes to this charity, and it'll solve the problem for them. So. Or you could just make it so it goes to one of those charities that are more globalized, because there is obviously military charities that are more global. You know what I mean?
Like,
so you want to go
Stack Up is does all NATO and Australia and New Zealand, and you know, so like you know.
But I would really like them, even if they just kept it as the Veterans Affairs donation, to have that F7A upgrade
that's the other way.
Available all the time, because you look at it on the grey market, and it's being scalped for
thousands
heaps, and that doesn't go to supporting the charity, and so.
There's Agrido, just sort of another way you could go around it too. You could also have it so that there are multiple, so F7A, but it says what country the charity goes to. There's ways around it. You can make it so there's an F7A for Australia, America, whatever. You could even have different skins for different places. I think the problem was it was just that one off, and it was in one targeted direction. So this is the thing though. Anytime COG get burned, they're really reluctant to do shit again. So I think
human nature.
Yeah, they need to lean into it instead of leading out of it, and that's what they've done.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next question.
Paul, I just want to say 48,000.2K. I'm 1,800 short. Okay. I'm getting there though.
QPan asks a good question. Did the Spirit get too big?
We've talked about this, and I keep giving my rolling pin analogy, don't I, Agrid? And it's a bit of a weird one, but it makes a lot of sense. So if you look at the Cutlass, I had an image that had the in Starlink. So I had the Cutlass, the Freelancer, and the Spirit. If you line them up against each other, you can kind of see the Cutlass. You can kind of see the Cutlass, and if you picture it like a piece of bread dough, right? then you roll it and it gets a bit thinner, you get to the same shape as the Freelancer. And then if you roll it a bit again and it gets even thinner again, you get to the Spirit. It's just the shapes that they have to work with. There's not a lot of variety you can go with, essentially, with different shapes. It's a ship after all. So because the Spirit is really the longest one, they also just went really wide on the wings. If anything, I would say it's the wings that are going to come in, but I don't know. Agrid, what's your thoughts?
Yep. Yeah, I think there is an element where that's true. Chop off the wings on each of those ships; they're just a tube. There's no top or bottom level. It's just a single tube. So, and I do think that the Spirit got too big. They kept back. That seemed they kept that neck corridor, like the endless corridors that you got, doorways you have to go through to get to the bridge. They could have shrunken those down to give more length elsewhere. But yeah,
I actually think the biggest fix would have been, like, if you kept it in the tubes, you could have had a thin tube at the front, which is what is there, and then in the back area they could have made it double decker, but a much fatter tube. You know what I mean? And just had stairs up and down that kind of merge onto the last level. And that way you could have shortened it quite drastically, because obviously anyone that looks at it, you can see that there's a lot of wasted space in those wings. But those wings are essentially as big as the ship itself, as in that living area. Yeah.
As Captain Fishstick says, that's a bigger target.
Yeah, and that's its weakness, right? But from a cargo ship perspective, you know, you've got the Freelancer with defense, you've got the Cuddy Black with offense, and then you've got it with the Outlier, and basically it's speed. And basically, if you're putting speed into a cargo ship, it's the one thing that you can use all the time. The other two are situational. So speed, it makes it the better one, but obviously, as Algra just said, its weakness is it's also the biggest one. So it's better in one area, but because of that, it's literally the definition of the glass cannon of cargo ships, because it leans so much into the positivity of cargo. It's also got the biggest negative.
Yep. You know, one of the other things it'll have is it's got better aerodynamics. So better aerodynamics and better speed versus the others. And you've got the one that's good at combat, one that's good at defense, one that's good at speed, and it's paper, scissors, rock. And that's generally what we see with every type of ship category in every profession.
If you were to put that into safe space, though, it is easily the best of the three, because you're just not going to not going to get a shot as much. But like if you're going out into priority space, you know, then you start to lean towards the other two quite a bit more. So yeah, and you have to answer that question for yourself. I can't answer that for you. Are you a little scaredy cat that lives in the safe zone, or are you rough and tough and go out into the unknown?
Big boy, big man,
or you're able to run away very fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Next question comes from Cavalier, who asks, I understand that the medical gameplay will look like on foot in combat, but what do you think it will look like on an Endeavor?
So have you ever played the game Operation? No.
I do think it'll, like, as it stands now, it'll be analysis to figure out what's wrong. Treatment options, and you have to choose treatment options. I don't think we'll ever have use this on anything. It'll be, you can use this drug, this drug, this drug. You can choose to operate. You can choose, like, there'll be different options you can do with success chances and or with other factors that involve. Like this will cause, you know, cooldown where, like, they'll be limping for a little bit longer, but they'll but the process is faster or safer or it's cheaper. There'll be some trade-offs, because CIG at its core is trying to build gameplay that is meaningful. Decisions matter. Like, your decisions matter, and they will affect your character in some way, shape, or form.
Probably even have things like timing is, if you don't operate in a certain amount of time, this person will die. So, but it's like, well, if I play this option, it's going to take him a month to heal. But at the end of the day, at least he'll be alive. So there'll be, as you said, play choices. Yeah.
It will not be as simple as it is now. But they'll use the same system they have now of diagnosis and treatment, but they'll just expand upon it a little bit more.
Yep. And if you look at the med beds when you're injured at the moment, or you come in and it tells you you've already got the diagnostic tool. It tells you, this is what's wrong with you, and you could see the doctor seeing that stuff, and then and you've already got the different chemicals or the different drugs that are used for different things. So we can already see there's elements where that is coming.
Mm.
And if you're a doctor on a med ship, you can see that's going to be the type of stuff you're going to be doing. But yeah, other than that, at the moment, we're clutching at straws and feeding you a hopium.
Yeah.
I do think that they're more likely to lean into the beds doing the operation, but you are making the choices because that really like if they've got to model a whole thing where the body is open and you're actually like cutting organs and stuff. They could do that. They really could go there. They really could go there, right? But I just think it's far simpler if you are just selecting things. You've got to know. You've got to have the knowledge of what are the drugs to apply and stuff like that. That's pretty hardcore.
And the right order to place them and how much to give and
and it's a lot easier to animate a body that's standing still on a bed, that's laying still on a bed, to do an operation animation than it is to have a player having to do the operations. The auto doc doing that, having the player open up like a chest cavity or something like that, you can have that as an animation, which is you're locked in.
If you think of it like Fifth Element, where they kind of built the whole body, say they're like 3D printing a new arm, like they can do that all in an animation. You're exactly right, Paul. They don't actually have to have you going, click, and all the animations for that. It's just a one-off, as opposed to all the outliers of you moving around and stuff.
And I could see, the doctor sitting there with his auto doc checking it, and he's doing the order of, got fix this first, do the order. And if you do the order wrong, that's going to, if you don't fix the lung before you fix the arm, then they're going to have breathing problems, or their strength is going to go, or they might die because they're not going to oxygen. It's that type of
These are all spit taking. We're all like shooting it. These are theory crafting, not exactly what CIG has said, but they're going to have to make medical more complex to have it more valuable for players. So any kind of complexity we see with current gameplay loops, expect that level of complexity with medical.
And at least with some of those ideas we've suggested, you can actually see the tech is there for them to do it already. It's just adding to it and building on it. So
even changing the way your character looks could be done in the same way, Paul, too. I just thought of that.
Well, there are places in game. That is in game.
Yeah,
it is lore. But there are face changing places, and
that's what I'm going to do with Algrid. I'm going to have his face removed and then just pull him out of the chair and send him out the door. No face.
Well, I mean, that's one of the changes. That's one of the changes that you can make in a game. You can change your character.
It's one of the things I hoped when the 890 came out and they were originally looking at different variants. I thought hospital ship, and it's a private hospital for doing those types of vanity type repairs.
The boob job, the butt jobs, the lip jobs, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Old man Hurston needs it for his cat girls.
Yes,
absolutely.
Upgrade ship.
Those United Workers Union girls need some
improvements.
They need to be more compliant to Hurston's ways.
That's disgusting, but it's exactly on the level of a Hurston. So I approve. That's disgusting, but it's exactly what I would expect from a Hurston. So that's why I'm like, I'm not even mad at that point. That's just like, I
could see how bad it was.
Yeah. It's like when you say it, you can say it how bad it was. And it's like, yep. But it's also 100% in character. Hurston, to put it into a trope way, the Hurstons would shoot the dog. That's the Hurstons would shoot the dog in the trope of the bad guy. The bad guy in a movie because they shoot the dog.
Oztech, the reason why it's called Uwu is that's why it's UWU. No, he's trying to say it should be UWH for United Workers of Hurston. I thought it was UWU.
It is
because of Uwu.
It is UWH is the actual term for it, is the actual name of it. But we screwed up and called it the United Workers Union of Hurston, so UWH or Uwu, and it became such a big funny joke that we just kept the Uwu. That's why.
Yep. Oh, okay. Because it was the wasn't there that because someone was wanting me to do the Uwu as Old Man Hurston because that was one of the cat girls were doing Uwu.
So the joke is, and I'll say, you have to go watch that clusterfuck of a Lore Citizen podcast if you really want to see this. Was someone wanted Old Man Hurston to say Uwu, and then old man Al basically was like, "Oh yeah, those are the people who are the United Workers Union," and Uwu, and I made my diseased brain made the connection of Uwu with cat girls, because VTubers exist, and so the joke became that all of Hurston's revolutionary movement is entirely made up of cat girls. And Uwu, the anti-Hurston revolutionaries, was born and will never die. That is canon to the core. All right.
Yep.
All right. Next question comes from Shanks for Giggles, who asks, "So I'm loving all the gameplay loops. I will probably mainly do mining, cargo running, and some bounty hunting. I have a decent fleet, but I'm gonna melt some, and I have $850 credit. Should I go for an Idris or just to have it at IAE? None of those things tell me Idris. Bounty hunting, mining, and cargo running. Get an Orion.
The biggest ship there would probably be the Polaris with bounty hunting, but then after that, Paul, I would Polaris, say the Orion.
Well, I suppose the Idris does have cells, so it does have a brig, but you'd be better off going. I imagine a Polaris, Crucible / Orion / Endeavor. That'd be the options I'd look at rather than going $1,000 for an Idris. But
yeah, because the other question is, do you have friends? Because you're gonna need friends with an Idris. Like, that's a lot of people to run. So,
and admittedly, you will need friends with a Polaris and a Endeavor and a Crucible, but you'll need less friends.
Yes. All right. Next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who asks, "What do you think about reworking the freelancers as Max Crew 2? I think it makes a lot of sense."
100% agree.
Yeah. You could pull out those two beds. So instead of having 4 beds, you have 2 beds. You could replace it with more living space. You can move those other two in the back out and make more living space or more, because it's supposed to be a long range hauler. Like, it's supposed to be like an independent contractor that can go out in long distance runs. So you need to have those, like the kitchenette, the like sitting down spot, the relaxing couch or whatever. There could definitely be more stuff. So
it makes sense for old Jagger with his freelancer and
I think the only version we actually worked out needed more than 2 was the Miss. Because of the missile operator in the cargo bay there. That was the only one that ever needed more than 2. Can I just say quickly, because I'm thinking back to the last question, if you do want more detailed answers about Fix My Fleet, other than getting in contact with Algren and myself, we also have a dedicated Fix My Fleet channel on our Discord. Yes. So you get many, many, many opinions in there.
Someone was asking about it. I remember I was going to go try to grab the Discord, but go to the Inforunners Discord. So
it's in the description of every video we do.
Yeah,
and if not, reach out to Paul, myself, or Algren, and we'll give it to you.
We'll send you an invite if need be.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Next question comes from Phased Kitten, who asks, "Do you think concierge or subscribers will receive a option for the Corsair with Warbond LTI or something similar?" Generally speaking, concierge and subscribers do not get LTI after the fact. Sometimes they'll get bonuses, like they'll be able to purchase ships which aren't normally available, but they rarely get LTI added as part of that deal.
I think they've only ever done that once.
Yeah.
I can't think of many times they've done it. So
and generally we don't get Warband discount CCUs that other people don't get. We might get them a day early or something like that. But I don't know. Like, as I keep saying, the only thing consistent about CIG is how inconsistent they are.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Phase Kitten too, as well, he has a pre-recorded Fix My Fleet that will release coming up.
There we go.
To AA as well.
And that is a point that Robert Vose makes, is that IA usually also has IAE or extended insurance. So it's usually not LTI, but it's usually ghetto LTI or the poor man's LTI, because it's
what are we up to? 120 months now or something, which is like 10
they've
years.
Capped it at 10 years. They capped it at 10 years.
But
so
if you're after LTI ownership, buy yourself a Warbond vehicle that's available at the moment and CCU that up to whatever you want.
Yeah, the Steve is surprise, like, don't quote me on this, but I think the Steve will probably be cheaper than the ones at the IAE. So if you know you're going to say pick up 3 ships and they're not new, they're older ones. Like say you want to get an Endeavor and a Crucible, then pick up a Steve for it, because chances are that is going to be much cheaper. Well, you've got to visualize it. You've got the Pisces Medical and the Cutter are probably the 2 that are going to be the cheapest. And visually speaking,
they'll still probably be more expensive than the Steve, because the Steve's like $35. So.
And that's my point.
Get yourself a Steve to start off with, bang, and that gives you your LTI starting point. And all you need to worry about is your start point for your LTI token and the CCU you want to go to the ship you want to go to, and you can leave the rest blank and fill that in over time.
And you don't want a UTI starting point. That's a bad idea. You can die from that.
You don't want a UTI. Don't want a urinary tract infection. It's very horrible. I was obviously, I was obviously thinking of Uwu,
I think you were mixing Ute and Steve. This is the UTV, which is I do all the time. So, all right. Monster Avi asks, do you think the income/value would be better with a reclaimer plus large miner of the or the Orion, or would refining alone be push the Orion higher?
So what he's saying? So he's saying the landminer and the reclaimer, or the Orion on its own. Is that how I read that?
Yes.
Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Well,
depends what you like as well.
I'm going to be honest. I actually think it's the first one, because you've got essentially the reclaimer is the top of salvage and the Orion is top of mining. So he's essentially said one rung down from the Orion and the reclaimer versus just the top part of mining. So the 2 ships are better than one type of thing?
Possibly. It'd have to. It would be hard to tell in terms of we have to know the price and the capabilities, because the reclaimer has its own processing facility, and the Orion has its own refinery. We don't know if the large ship will have a refinery. It might have a refinery attached to it as well. Maybe just not as.
I'm expecting it's like the Starfarer. So the Starfarer is technically a large gas miner, right? And it only has 3 refineries. And basing this off the Expanse that has 6, and it's a small ship, not a large one. It's a small. So I actually think those 3 refineries that they've given the Starfarer are just to remove volatile cargo, not really for actual proper processing, right? And I think we'll get something like a really
to stabilize like the volatile chemicals rather than to process them into actual usable things.
So I'm expecting a capital refinery at some point that is absolutely massive, and it's akin to if you've ever played Satisfactory, where you'll have processes upon processes upon processes that feed into each other. So you'll a part of the gameplay will actually be setting up the processes to all feed into each other, and then that's today I'm refining X and I have to configure it this way, and then the next day you're configuring something else. So the gameplay for a refinery person is the constant reconfiguring of the entire ship, and they've mentioned cleaning out of things and stuff like that. So the whole thing is cleaning it out and rejigging the entire ship to process whatever the material is you're processing that day.
And you could possibly do that with a Starfarer, but you'd have to do it so many times between each level. Having more refineries is going to make it a lot quicker and easier. And that came about from Drazen, who actually works in the plastics industry, and he literally said that crude oil is taken in and it's turned into 8 different things, and then those things are turned into things and things and things.
And then some of those have byproducts, and those byproducts end up being used for like tar on roads or on nothing is wasted when it comes to these materials. It's money.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're seeing an Expanse, it's got 6 refineries. Can you imagine what a capital might have? It might be up there like 32 or something ridiculous.
My dad used to work in the paper industry as an environmental engineer, and he used to say, like, we literally use everything. Like a tree that's cut down is turned into 17 different products before it leaves the refinery or factories, because otherwise it's a waste. They have to throw it away. They have to find some use for it, otherwise they have to throw it away. Yep. So it's the same thing, and I think even inert rock will have some value when you go to mining at some point, because
inert rock, they're going to
whatever.
Archangel project.
Yeah. Building
taking rock to give ballast or whatever to the Archangel project.
Yeah, to Synthworld. Or give at least make it into Zen Gardens somewhere on Crusader. Who knows? Just like stuff like that.
To fill up the holes on Hurston where they've been strip mining.
Yeah. Robert Voss asks, what do we think of the Drake Cutter being a new starter ship or possibly a possible package? I would love the idea of a Drake starter ship that is Drake as heck, but a starter. Like, another thing I was pointing out, I think it might actually fit into. It's either, in my mind, the Drake's answer to the Pisces, or it's the Drake's answer to the Reliant.
It'd actually be kind of interesting now you brought that up. If you could put it into the Carrack instead of the Pisces,
and not just the Carrack. If it could fit into the cargo hold of a Corsair, because that would make sense. If you're swapping out the because that's a very Drake thing too. It's a smaller, basically it's Drake's Carrack.
Snub.
It's Drake's Carracks.
Pisces.
So the Corsair's Drake's
the
Carrack.
Corsair, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but because the Carrack is just better, it's going to be able to hold both a rover and a snub. But the Drake would be like, who needs both? Just choose one and just throw it in there. You know, that kind of thing. They could see that fitting as a Drake snub.
Wouldn't Drake just chuck in the Dragonfly?
They will, because that is a snub ship.
Yeah, it's a snub ship that can fly in space and it can do the land stuff. So,
but it doesn't have quantum, nor does it have tractor beams. Which would be another thing that I could see it having. It's just a non-combat ship that doesn't have any guns, but it has tractor beams and can quantum, like a more cargo or more industrial focused version of a.
I'd be happy if it's a Drake ship that can fit inside that can fit inside a Corsair, because it'll fit inside a Connie.
Yeah.
I think at the very least it's definitely the LTI token for the sale. At the very least. Yeah. I think it's my brain tells me it's smaller than the Pisces. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but
no matter what it is, it's smaller than a Pisces, I think. It's or at least cheaper than a Pisces.
But do you want to see it as a starter pack? And I think the short answer is yes.
Yes. If it's got a quantum, even if it doesn't have a jump drive, it has a quantum and it's the Pisces Drake, then yeah.
I visualize it more like the Archimedes or the P-72. So for me, I don't think it will with a pack. I'd love to see it with a pack, but I don't think it's going to come with one. I think you're more likely to see the medical Pisces with a pack. Personally.
Almost certainly that. Yeah.
Well, but we've already got the Pisces with a pack.
Yeah,
but we don't have the medical one with a pack.
No, but we don't have the as a starter pack. We don't have the Auroras other than the MR as a starter pack. We don't have the Mustang.
All we've got to go on our grid is what they've done. So my thing is like that is not likely to happen because of what they've already done. So yeah.
Okay. All right, we got 5 more questions, and we're only just over an hour now. So, Monster Avi asks,
not as bad as you thought, see?
No. Last question. What would you say the price jump will make between the Idris Kraken? Or would you say the price jump will make the Idris/Kraken a better investment, or Orion plus Reclaimer plus BMM?
Well, I think the industry ships are going to make more money easier. Mm-hmm. But I think if you then turn around and turn that on itself, it's going to take you a lot longer to take those 3 ships and get back to the Kraken. So you have to kind of look at what I'd bring that back to gameplay. So what are you going to get more fun out of? Because no matter which way you go, backwards or forwards, there's something you're giving up. So I think it would be easier to take a Kraken and earn those 3 ships, so you get your gameplay back faster. So that's another way to look at it, is just take the Kraken and earn the other 3. Where if you have the other 3, trying to get to the Kraken is going to take you forever. So it's what you prefer at the end of the day. Are you going to be happy just playing those gameplay for ages trying to get back to the Kraken? Or are you happy to take the Kraken, do a couple of missions, I don't know, let's just say for argument's sake, say it's a month, but and you get those 3 ships back. But like if you do take those 3 ships, it might take you a year to get back to the Kraken. So you got to weigh that up for yourself. I can't do that for you, mate. Sorry.
Yeah.
It comes down to what you haven't told me what gameplay you're into, so I can't answer that.
Sorry to tell. Shanks for Giggles asks, I started melting my bigger ships so I could have more ships for each role. So now I have like entry level ships such as Vulture for each role instead of a big ships. any reason I shouldn't do this and should go back to the bigger ships. For example, I have a Prospector and Mole because when the Orion's is out, the Orion may be too costly to operate. Why do you have a Prospector and a Mole?
Yeah. If you've got a Prospector and a Mole, melt them and buy the Orion, because you'll get a Prospector and a Mole to use in game now.
Yeah, if you have multiple professions, and you want to use all those professions, then melt the Mole and get like a Vulture, because you want to have, you know, if you really like want to spread it out and be like, oh, I want to do all the professions, that's fine. Just don't buy 2 of the same profession ship, because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say more likely to answer his question, get the Orion, because even if you're doing like it's a 5-person ship, even if you've got to switch yourself between all the seats to get one mission done, the amount of money you'll earn on that one mission completion, you can probably walk straight out and buy yourself a Prospector. Do it again, walk straight out and buy yourself a Vulcan.
Yeah.
But to take a Prospector, and in the case of what you had is the Mole, to take either of those 2 ships and get to the Orion will take you far, 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 far longer. And as soon as you add one other person to that, so you got one other friend, it just makes it quicker and quicker. So you can earn a Prospector for you and your friend.
And I would also
within 2 missions.
Yeah,
you know?
And what I'd also reiterate is that this is for people who already have a lot of money invested in the game. Don't go out and buy an Orion. Don't go out and buy an Orion because we said this, because that's not what we're saying. We're saying if you already have $1,000 into this game and you have 17 ships and all of those ships do different things, and you know you have 2 of the same, like two fighters or 2 bombers or whatever, it's like, what are you doing with all of these ships? Just streamline it into something that you will use that will then help you earn the other things you want to earn in game. So if all you have is a starter pack, go make some friends. Yes.
Or join Agrid's org, Agrid and friends. No, but seriously, there is a lot of people out there that have so many ships that are going to need crew. You know, I remember when I interviewed Chris ages ago, he literally said, yeah, don't buy more ships. We don't need you to buy more ships. Just, you know, get new people into the game. Yeah, new bodies. You know, and they're like, some of the fleets me and Ari get linked are just ridiculous. You know, like, let me just put it this way. They went to town on someone that had spent $21,000. That is absolute chump change. To the
you're talking about the media? When the media lost their shit?
Yeah, I'm talking about their media, but I don't. Let's just say that is literally. I would say that is less than 1/10 of them. I've seen. I don't want to say how much I've seen, but like they're up there. Like they're way up there. Some of the prices of the fleets that we've seen. You know, like I'm talking almost $500,000 from one person type of thing. So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
So by the way, Lethal Rose, when we say melt, we're talking about return for store credit. Because if you buy a ship, you can always get store credit back by it used to say melt. I don't think it says anymore. I think it just says return for store credit or something like that.
Del says in chat too, he says that we would hate his fleet. No, we don't hate fleets. We just try to customize them to people's needs, right? And we never tell people you can't get this. We just go, this is what we would do. This is the best value. Like there was a Fix My Fleet we haven't released yet, but we've done recently, where the guy had spent heaps of money and he was able to get a Javelin, a Kraken, and an Idris, but he loved the Saber, so he kept the Saber.
Yeah,
you know, that's just we don't force people to get rid of things.
I did it Fix My Fleet where like a while ago when we were trying to get it like more people onto it, and for that reason I actually got the vaunted pack, the exploration pack, which was that huge good deal that came with the Carrack, and I turned
$29.48.
Yeah, and I turned that Carrack into a Perseus. Execute doesn't like the ship, but it was exactly what I wanted it for what it was. It's not like something it's going to be good. And I got a lot of other ships I could get out of it as well. It was a good deal. So,
I actually like the Perseus. It's just not good value.
Not good value.
This is the thing. People hear what they want to hear from me. Like they say I hate Origin. I don't hate Origin. I want Origin to have more gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but my point is
it's the one complaint we always make about the Perseus. The Perseus is a great ship.
Yeah,
it's a ship
fantastic.
that I actually think most people will want a Perseus in their fleet.
Yep.
But the price for a Perseus, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's literally almost double its value.
Yeah.
Really, really is. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, if, for example, my Fix My Fleet, the idea of having a bar ship, I'm gonna have to have a bar ship because it's what I do. And so that sort of thing is like, and so when we say something like it's hard to tell individually. Like I personally would have more starter ships if you don't have a ton of money in it. If you're like, oh, I want to be a miner and a salvager, a Vulcan and a prospector. Both those together are cheaper than what you can do otherwise. But I see you understand why like Execute's like get the Reclaimer or get the Orion, because you can then just use those and get the other starter ships easy. So, you know. And then that's not even bringing up the CCU game, which is I asked Execute if he could do something, and he was just like, "Man, I gotta prepare. I gotta like do my research. It's nuts. It's a whole ass science to do CCU.
Go to the Inforunners channel and have a look at the CCU guide that was done for.
There are people like the CCU game and Hangar Link that have tried to automate the process, but it still isn't good enough, and it's so hard to explain because you almost need something that looks at an entire fleet at the same time, and there's no perfect way to do it because you literally have to do and go through it by hand. I've looked at many different ways. I've talked to the guy at CCU game. I've talked to Starlet. There is no perfect way to do it. You almost have to do it by hand, custom. But does it shorthand it? Does it make it simpler for the masses? Absolutely, but you do still have to tweak it after that. And man, I'm over looking at Excel sheets. I'll just
Puri, it is on our YouTube. So we actually did a YouTube for CCU guiding. I think we usually do something like that every Invictus and IAE, but we actually did a streamlined version. It was how to get I think it was part of it was how to get a $95 carrack, which is what someone did, and it went through a process of how you do it. And we did another one where we actually looked at taking an LTI token and going up to what was it? It was a Scorpius, wasn't it? X.
Yeah, we did that.
And then and then that became a giveaway we did. So there's actually that episode, and that we went with that one. We actually went through what CCUs we could get at Invictus. And we went from the little starter ship, and we went all the way up to the Scorpius, and showed how Warbond CCUs and regular CCUs could be actually chained together to actually get you the ship you were after.
Yeah, that I think that's. Don't quote me on this, but I wasn't aware of anyone else that had actually done a CCU chain like that on camera before. Because people generally don't want to apply CCUs, but because as Alfred said, we're doing it for a giveaway, I was like, well, they're going to take this opportunity to film it because it's just ridiculous. So, yeah.
So for people who are new as well, a CCU is a cross-chassis upgrade. It's basically where you can buy the difference in value from one ship to another. So if you have a Aurora and you want to upgrade that to a Cutlass Black, you don't have to melt the Aurora. You don't have to return the Aurora and then buy a Cutlass, especially if that Aurora is your game package. They made the ability for you to basically purchase the difference between the Aurora and that Cutlass and then apply that to your ship, and then it'll turn that Aurora into a Cutlass. So it's just I keep forgetting that we've got so many new people this year that we have to kind of go back and look at that. So.
Yeah, me and Badges have been doing a tutorial series, and it was just surprising how to go back to everything that you've got to look at. We found a gentleman that took him 45 minutes to get out of the hab because he didn't know about the F key.
Yeah.
It's just like
and the thing with CCUs, we often have Warbond CCUs, and they often have a small discount on the purchase price. So the more of those Warbond CCUs you put into a chain, the bigger your savings end up being.
And chaining is just linking them together. So Paul said, going from an Aurora to a Cutlass, then you could go from a Cutlass to a Freelancer, from a Freelancer to a Prospector, and every link all the way up. And that's what they are. It's chaining those CCUs together with all of them having a discount. And so you just so if everyone's got $5 discount and you apply 5 of them, you get a $25 saving, and it's just and that's how you get ships for cheaper.
Yeah, and the important part about the discount is that when you buy the CCU, it locks in that price for that change. So if a ship goes up in price, so if the ship was $300 and now it's $330, you're still going to get that ship for $300, which means you're saving money on that ship.
And that's why you buy the end point of the ship you're after. So if you, as we said earlier, if you're after an Endeavor or a Crucible, because they're still at their original concept price, you're nuts if you don't lock in a CCU to those ships.
Yeah.
So I feel very sorry. for people like Joker in chat, because that's how multi-level this is, man. It's knowledge on knowledge on knowledge on knowledge on knowledge. So I do feel sorry for you as a new person walking in Joker, just because Joker's in chat going, "What's a cracky upgrade?" and not knowing the Pandora's box he just opened.
Yeah, well, and it's one of the reasons why. I mean, personally, I think this whole system is completely too complicated for your average person to kind of figure out. And I think
100%
created their own spaghetti code when it comes to the store.
Well,
that's why the store sucks.
well,
it's why the website.
They don't know
sucks.
them. They don't know themselves. When we talked to Sandy and interviewed her, we told her about the $95 carrot. We said, "Do you know it's possible to get a carrot for $95?" And she was like, "What?"
Yeah.
You know, because she has a carrot herself, and she was like, $95. That's like, and I said, "Yeah, it's literally 17% of the total purchase price." She's like,
"That's less than half the price that she paid originally."
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, so do you know you've done this to your ships? Like, it is totally possible. And then Algrid went through and explained about how the original war concepts were, this is the cheapest you'll ever buy them, and that whole process has been broken. You know, but anyway.
I was going to say, moving on, because there's actually a question about this, which is Outlaw Knight Zero asks, are there any good CCUs in the past that you can remember?
There's heaps that are. There's heaps that are not available anymore. Absolute heaps. Like, I think a really good one was when the Perseus came out. I got that $25. You could get it was a $25 Perseus to Polaris. So essentially that was like $50 off.
Mm-hmm.
The Mantis that came out, but actually gave you LTI.
Yep, that's a really good one too. Oh man. A lot of so what I'm expecting is like, so things like put it this way, the Corsair comes out, there will be a discount Warbond CC for the Corsair to give you the original price. Yeah. Now that's happened on the Redeemer, it's happened on the MSR, it's happened on a few of those. As they come out, they're like, "Oh yeah, here's your last chance to get it at the original price." Mm-hmm. And they do it for war bonds, so they make they make a bit of cash, so they win, and you get it at the last discounted price. So that is something I'm 100% expecting. So you'll see that a warband discount CCU for the Corsair, 100%.
And then you can change that up to a larger ship later if you have, which will then give you cheaper discounts. So.
Probably do the similar thing for the Vulture as well, actually, now I think about it.
And yes, Del, $250 BMM was the original price of a BMM. But so if you can get a BMM for that price or less using CCUs, you're doing really good at the moment because it's now worth more.
All right, Shimpasta asks. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, I answered his question there. I just realized. So go. It's fine.
Shimpasta asks, do you think players will be able to rent ships to other players? I don't think they
did mention that. They did mention that as a thing years ago, didn't they? It was like, we're going way back here. Don't ask me to quote it or find it for you because that's going to be impossible.
They talked about it, that type of thing, as in org hangars. So the ability to have an org hangar where you could actually loan your ships to people and do that. They also talked about renting ships and that. But whether they go that line, a lot of things. You got to remember, a lot of things when CIG talks about things as we want to do or we think we'd like to do, that's them postulating as the possibilities, just like we do. The difference is they're on the inside doing it, and we're on the outside listening to what they're saying and then doing it. But often we're all doing the same thing. We're kind of thinking, if we can get this, we could do this.
Yeah.
And another way to look at it too, our grid is it might not be there at release, but 5 years after release, they might work it into the system. So
the thing to understand as well is that CIG does not like bespoke systems. They try to build bespoke systems, and bespoke means it's custom built for one thing, because they've tried to do that in the past and it bit them in the ass. So if they're going to build a system, they want to build a system that's flexible, that is easily scalable, and has multiple uses. So a ship rental system would, if it existed, would have to have other uses, like maybe a permission system for the ships or other things like that. They'd likely not have a system in place where you can say, I would like to rent this ship, please. It would have to be something along the lines of using the permission system plus money transfer system that already exists. That to say, you can do it, but it's not a built-in system.
I was going to say it might fall under the rating system.
Yeah.
Yep. But also you've got a system in place already where you can rent ships rent ships from the AI, and so
you'd have to put your ships into that system or something like that. Yeah, it would be.
Picking up that point you made about not liking bespoke systems, that ties, since the topic was, ships and ISC, the programming guys in ISC were saying exactly the same thing, that they like having systems which they can, or code that they can put into multiple things, rather than having code that only works with this and then having to write a similar code that works with that. If you can have the same code work for multiple systems, that makes everyone's work a lot easier. So, yeah.
It's building blocks is a great example. Like building blocks is basically the UI system, and it can be scaled to whatever UI they want. Instead of having to build a UI system for the ships, a UI system for the elevators, a UI system for the rental kiosks or the ship kiosks, they have one system that works for all of them, and they can put it onto anything that has any kind of screen in the future. Render to texture, same concept, where they can just use that for whatever they need to. They don't need to build a reflective system for glass in the game. They can just make every glass in the pieces they want to have reflections, just render to texture, and that's it. So it makes it easier for them to flexibly change things around. So,
and when you look at the things that CIG, to go back to the idea of when they say this is what we'd like, there are things that they've planned and wanted to do, but they didn't think they'd be able to do them straight away and down the track. And that planetary tech is a classic example. It's always hoped or is intended that eventually we'd have large maps and would have the planets where we were. It just didn't think it'd be as quick to be able to implement as it was, because the guys in Frankfurt were just awesome.
They just were crazy. Well, I actually did a video on this recently where I mentioned that. And one thing I didn't mention on that, because I was talking about like the changes to lore and systems, and I did a little bit of a history of like the pre-2015 CIG and post-2015 CIG, where like that was a huge change, was the planetary landing stuff. And one of the things I didn't mention was the team who built planetary landing built 4 years before they got hired in CIG. So in 2011, they had built a completely procedural generated city from scratch using the CryEngine. All the buildings and everything was procedurally generated, and they showed it off to Crytek, and they showed it off at GDC and a bunch of other things, and it was never picked up. They just discarded them. So all they did was use that same techniques they used to build a procedurally generated city to CIG, and now we see the scale that they're able to build with these planets. So.
And I always got the impression that when the Crytek guys came on board with CIG, it was basically, show us what you can do.
Yeah.
Whereas when it was Crytek, it's, no, we don't need you to do that. We just need you to do this because the world is there, and we're just going to make another game and we're going to push it out. But CIG is saying, show us what you can do. We want to see what...
They definitely encourage their developers. Definitely encourage their developers to explore.
Yeah. And that ties back into those systems. Like any kind of system that would be built into the game is going to be flexible, and it's going to be built by the team because they want to. Not necessarily because CIG is mandating it to.
And it is a frustration for us because we want the game out, but it's also a blessing for us because we get the really good stuff. And so I know you hear people complain all the time, it's taking so long, and I'll be honest, I sit there and go, hey, it's coming on good. I'm seeing progress. I'm happy. It's going great guns, so.
Yeah. Can I ask a question to you two while I'm here? Because I'm just thinking of something. Remember that bedsheet tech stuff? I don't actually ever remember hearing about there being bedsheet tech. Is that just something that someone made up for media clicks or what? Because can someone tell me what happened? What was that?
Squad 42. The Squad 42 monthly report, they had bedsheet deformation, where like if you sit down in the bed, it'll be deformation. But using that as an example, something like that tech could be used for damage states, or be used for deformation of clothing or other things like that. It's a cloth deformation project. It's not a bedsheet deformation. It's just
when you're wearing your coat and you sit down, the material will flow and bend in a certain way.
So that's essentially the media having such a narrow view that they don't even know what they're talking about. They don't know how to apply it to other stuff. Yeah, I get it now.
It's an example of the media just parroting what people were saying online because they were listening to the Spectrums and the Reddit threads, and they decided this is a great
and they didn't care to do their research.
It's a great juicy drama that we can put out there, and it'll get clicks, and I get my ramen. I get my 50 cents per click from the if probably not even that, probably like 10 cents per click from the corporate giant who makes billions of dollars, and I get to eat my ramen and move on, kind of
That's
thing.
why I don't advertise some of the really big fleets we've seen, because I know the media would have an absolute field day with that shit.
Aimless actually does a point. They showed that defamation of the cloth tech when they at CitizenCon. Remember when they had the cloth over the box and he pulled it off?
The M50. The M50. Yeah, they put it on the M50 and they pulled it off.
And even off the crate when he was going off. They even did the same thing.
Wasn't
when they
it an Ursa? Wasn't it Ursa?
Yeah, it was an Ursa.
On Microtech. Yep.
Yeah.
So
and the jacket over the top of the, like he had to pick up a jacket and put it on, didn't he? At the Microtech as well. Yep. So yeah. So I can see lots of uses for it, to be honest with you.
Well,
like even just tents blowing in the wind, like at outposts and stuff.
It's what the flags use. It's the flags on Ursa, and I'll use that system.
If you look at that mesh, that deformation of stuff, you saw it just in that episode. You saw it on the jacket, the canvas. We see it on the flags. We see it on the outposts with the fluttering material, or the sails, or the windmills. So
it's a critical tech. We're going to need it for Old Man Hurston's robe physics. So it's critical. Don't even mention his comb over. Like woo.
What comb over? Execute. What comb over?
Hey, when he's out with the Uwis, man, he's got to dress up.
No, the Uwi girls need it for their flowy robes or whatever stuff.
Yes,
so.
Their pointy
nice
ears.
Dresses.
Their pointy ears, and they need those flowing robes to hide their weapons, because they're obviously Paul's revolutionaries.
Yes, they're all my secret catgirl revolutionaries. All right, let's move on. We got 3 more questions, all from Shimpasta, who asks, when will we get less explodey ships and ship armor? When the resource tech is finished.
Yeah. It's a when question. When it's ready.
I still think a lot of the armor's being faked for Squadron 42. I think that's why it's a system that's just never gone in, because it's only really needed for multiplayer. They can kind of fake it in a single player game. So I'd say when they...
I can see it. Okay, I can see it being added. It's just they need to have the same resource systems in place in the first place before they can add. Because the resource diversion system, the fuse system that they're using, it needs to be in the game, and it'll be in the game not just for big ships, it'll be in for smaller ships and fighters as well. You just won't be able to replace them. It'll be the maintenance you can do on the fly when you're out of combat. Once you have that, then you have you can move away from health pools to destroy the components, destroy the ship, and that'll, instead of destroying the ship, it'll disable the ship, and then once they do that, they can start adding the armor tech. We're on step 1 of 4 or 5 steps, and that should be done.
Wouldn't that also next year be something you also need the repair feature to be in there as well? So you've got your armor plates and that damage. So now if I repair that feature, that's strengthening it up. So
there's a bunch of other tech which is in the...
We haven't even got into if armor plates, as an example, is something you've got to store in your ship.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There's a resupply.
Yeah. All right. There's 2 more questions, both from Shimpasa. One asks, what big ship would you recommend for each profession / game blue?
A capital for each one.
Yeah, the largest you can find for each one.
The largest you can find, or the largest you believe you'll be able to fly and run with a group of people you're playing with.
Now, counterpoint. If you only want to spend less than $200 or $300 in the game, whatever the intro level profession ship that is.
Yeah, so for Mr. Joker that's in chat, if you've just got an Aurora, man, our recommendation is usually just keep that. If you want to go further, get to an Avenger, and then maybe a Cutlass. And then if you want to go further than that, then one big ship you like, but no more than that. It's just not required anymore. Yeah. They don't need ridiculous fleets anymore. No. I feel sorry for people we see coming into the game, and it's like, I got here last week and I've spent $7,000. Like, I just don't want to see that anymore, because you don't need to do that.
No. And the last question is from Shimpasa, who asks, do you feel game packs / ship packs are worth the price, like the Explorer package? This is a good one. This is why I want to save this for last.
Did he say
ship packages?
Ship packages.
Yes. The answer is...
So until recently... Agrid has been yelling at me for years telling me that packages had a scenario where they were available, and I'm like, fuck off. You are so full of shit. Bullshit. And then one time, out of all the Fix My Fleets we've come around, no, it wasn't the Explorer pack. It was actually way bigger than that. It was it the Convoy pack in the Algrid? Something like that.
Convoy pack.
In this one scenario that's like 1 in 100, there was a scenario where rolling this guy into a pack was the best thing to do. And I've never seen it. I've said to him, I'm blue in the face, packs are the worst idea. But I have to agree, he finally proved me wrong.
But packs can be a bad idea. They can be great.
Yeah.
If you want certain ships and they're only available in packs, you go them. But even in that case, it wasn't just any pack. It was that particular pack to get the best value. And so you've got to, if you're looking at packs, you've got to look at your packs and say, what is the pack that's doing the job for what I need?
Yeah. We looked at 3 other ones as well, didn't we? Or 2 or 3 other ones before
because
we
were
settled on that one.
Trying to get the packs that enabled him to get the ship.
Had to customize it just to his pack, didn't we? Or to what ships he had. So again, this is why this Fix My Fleet stuff is so hard, because and why we do it down and sit down with the person and do it one-on-one, because then we are utterly tailoring it exactly to what they have and what they want.
And what you see on the videos we do for Fix My Fleet is a distillation of that process. And so if it's a 40-minute show, that means that's probably been 4, 5, 6 hours of going through and working with, what do you want, how do you want it, and working that whole process through.
Yeah.
So it's never just a cut and paste.
I reckon there was close to 10 of us in that room that day as well, like all spitballing and throwing ideas around the place.
It's almost never just the people you see on screen, because there's like you'll see like Trees recently been doing a bunch of content, but he's been doing stuff with the Inforunners for years. Trees 0311. Tons of people you'll see hanging out in the Discord who are helping us with a lot of these things. Like, hey, what about this? At the point it's like, oh shit, yeah, we didn't even notice that. So and just like you say, Paul, people will pull stuff out of their butt and you don't think it makes sense, and then you apply it and it's like, okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, 100%.
And different packs will have a different discount, and the 2948 Explorer pack is a classic example. That used to be a shit pack to own. Because the saving on it was like 5%. But what generally happens with packs is when a ship in the pack goes up in price, the pack generally stays the same price. And so Carrick had his massive price increase. Those packs stayed the same. And so if you wanted to Carrick, you actually got that pack, and you were getting the pack for like $10, $20, $30 more than the Carrick was, and it had other ships in it. And so you're saving $600 odd or $500 odd on the pack.
It's like I got that pack, and it now has like a Cutlass Red. It's got a bunch of other things into it, which saved me something like $200, $300 just from that chassis, because you get the value of the Carrick plus all these other things, which you can then move around.
And then they eventually destroyed that pack because they put the price up. So our grid actually tell people why we picked the Convoy pack, because I think ahead of the sale, it might be worth mentioning that.
It's a Convoy
pack. Specifically one ship, wasn't it? Do you remember what it was, or do you want me to tell people?
Tell people, because I can't remember.
Okay, so what it was is what we worked out was the Banu Merchantman in that pack is still priced at $350. It's not priced at $600. They haven't put it up.
And so that pack gives you I think it's a 16% or 18% saving overall, but you're straight off the bat, you got a $300 odd saving on that ship. And one of the ships he was after was a BMM.
He had a Banu Merchantman with insurance, and that he got for $350. So it allowed us to melt that, and he got it back at the same price with LTO.
And then there were other ships in there that he wanted, but also there, and then gave LTO tokens to.
Yeah, and it basically worked out to the exactly number of ships that he wanted. So yeah, it all worked out.
So the rest, packs aren't that bad, but you've got it. It's not just I'll get that pack. If you just do that, you're going to be spending money hand over fist. But if and same with any Explorer pack, if you've got a pack that's good value, like the 2948 Explorer pack, if you had that and you knew I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ships, and I know they're the ships I want, and I can CCU these ships up.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
I think what I'd say that I learned from that episode, Algrid, is for people that don't have LTI on a lot of stuff, that would be a very easy way for them to get LTI on a bunch of stuff that they have, is roll into a pack if you are very fixed in what the ships you want to have, but they don't have LTI.
And that's the value of packs. If you know the ships you want to have, but if you're someone who's constantly changing or flipping around and packs are the worst place you want to be. You're better off having Warbond and individual ships.
Yeah,
but if you can credits,
you can generally still get more savings with the Warbond CCUs, but it seems to be the Warbond CCUs are not as good as they used to be, and it does take a rather large time investment because we've now had 3 years of Warbond CCUs, and as I said, they seem to be getting worse. But if you are chaining them all together, you can obviously get some ridiculously cheap ships.
And if you've got lots of credits, but you don't have lots of ships with LTI, then getting a pack with ships that have got LTI in them, that is another, then you CCU those smaller ships in those packs to get the bigger ships you want with LTI.
I think,
again, it's a way you can do, but if you're after those things, there's a way you can do it. So
that's a really good point that he does make, though, Paul. That is something that a lot of people misconstrued, is I've saved money or I've made money.
Yes.
But that's a really good point. You are basically essentially spending less by the way you do that stuff. You're essentially, it allows you to get something that costs more for less. And there's two different ways to look at it, because we hear people come going, I don't want to apply XCCU because they feel they've lost $50 because, for example, to give an example, eventually the Banner Merchantman will go above the Carrack, but I have an upgrade from the Banner Merchantman to the Carrack, but I'll still apply it because I didn't lose it. It just allows me to obtain that chain of the ship that I wanted, right? Yeah. I jumped off at a point where I'd already saved a bunch of money. But if it goes higher, so say it goes to 750, I can't do anything with that. I'm stuck with the Banner Merchantman. There are no CCUs above that, and all the ship, there's 2 other ships at 750, but you can't go sideways anymore. Yep. So you're stuffed. So you got to, don't think it's something you've lost. You're using it as a mechanism to get to the stuff that you want to get to.
Yeah,
it's a means to an end.
I think what people are getting kind of also what he's getting hung up on, and I think that's the point he's trying to make, is that it's not a savings you're getting it for less. It's called a discount. But a saving and a discount are used interchangeably in English because English is an imprecise
agglomeration of 1,500 years of change.
Yeah, but his point is noted. His point is noted, and he is correct, and it is something you should. It's a psychological thing.
Yeah,
it is certainly. It's
rejiggering your brain, because some people will take that as, say, savings means I saved money, or I'm saving money, and the answer is no. You're not saving money. You're not spending as much as you want for the ship you're going to get. You're not going to suddenly get a better deal because you have this ship. Having a Carrack at a certain discount means nothing if you don't want a fucking Carrack. Like, you want to have that ship in the first place, or that sort of thing. Yeah.
So I will reiterate really quickly, we do have a CCU helpers channel as well that is specific. It's very similar to the Fix My Fleet channel, but is set up specifically for these sales. And there are people in that channel that have a CCU help icon. They are people that have been verified by us that know what they're talking about. So if you go in there and there is a person, it's kind of like a little green cyan colored logo, and their title will be CCU helper. And if you get a response from them, we vetted them and they know what they're talking about. If you have any questions, just shoot at those people, and they are just as good as us at doing this stuff.
And if they don't know, they'll flip it to us. But they generally know more than they know their stuff. So
go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I was saying this was an enlightening episode. I think I'm going to title this episode this question and answer "Fix My Fleet Mini," because hopefully more people will watch this and go, what is this Fix My Fleet thing? If you haven't heard about this, because a lot of people in chat have never heard anything like this, and it's like, Inforunners has been doing this for years. Like,
it's a really weird thing too, because it doesn't always get the most views, but it's consistently about 1,700 people per episode, right? The views are about the same, and the retention rate on it is really, really high. So anyone that starts watching it, we hear things all the time. Margaret will tell you, like, people go, I just get to work and I chuck on the Fix My Fleet playlist, and I just sit there and listen to it over and over and over, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that?
I get it.
I just got.
Have you
I
ever
just
watched
found
a
the
reality
channel.
TV show? Have you ever watched a reality TV show? It's reality TV.
Yeah.
Is what you've created is
Yeah.
reality TV for Star Citizen. It's House Flippers. It's any of these other ones where you're helping somebody try to figure out how they can do their best, and you're using your own intuition and that kind of stuff. And every so often you go, oh, that's interesting, but it's nice, low stakes, throw in the background, listen to it, kind of thing. So
yeah, well, you've said it yourself,
There you
Paul.
go.
Our channel analytics are really weird compared to other channels because we don't get as many subscribers as other people. Like our growth rate is very, very slow, but the retention rate is ridiculous. So like a lot of other, like I was looking at my mother's friend's channel, right, that she was trying to compare to me when we went to lunch the other day, and their videos are like, they're slightly smaller than, I think they're about 9K viewers or whatever, and they'd have all these videos that are like 200, 400, 500 views, and then they'd have these breakout ones that just go to like 50K. None of our videos are like that. They're all more standardized. They're all, roughly 4 to 5K each, and I'm giving an average here, but they're a lot more stable than other people's channels, and again, that shows that we are more niche, and we don't kind of get it put out there by the algorithm. But we hear it all the time, don't we? Is like, why are you guys not bigger? And I think it's because we cater to that, and I don't mean in age here, I mean the older backer that's been here for longer type of thing. And once you've been here for a couple of years, you go looking for other content and stuff like that. What's wrong? Why are you saying poor Algrid? What's wrong with Algrid?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Well, I'm trying to work that out as well. It's something to do with
Oh.
a question that was asked, and I'm trying to work out what the question they were asking was. And because they go on and say, Algrid will try and tell us.
I think Al, because Al was going to start talking about basically what you just said, execute. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Al was going to say something that. So this has been a fascinating episode. It's been almost 2 hours.
It's savage. It's savage in Inforunners. You've just got to talk over top people. You got to fight to speak. No, it's to the death. No, we're all passionate. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're all just too bloody passionate.
And we'll go on tangents. Like this episode is an example of Paul's managing and wrangling in Inforunners, which is not as efficient as execute, which is the reason why everyone calls execute a jerk. In our and at this point, I'm pretty sure no one actually thinks execute's a jerk. I think it's just a standard meme that we call execute a jerk.
It's banter.
It's banter.
I think the other reason I do cut people off is when I do comedy stuff, because if you don't cut them off, the joke is lost. Yeah. This is Fix My Tangent is what you should totally call this episode.
But yeah, check out the Inforunners. You'll find me there. You'll find X there. You'll find Algrid there. You also
Space Tomato,
Badgers.
You'll lots of guests. We've got Level Cap there this weekend.
Level Cap. You need to get Ollie on if you have a chance to, because Ollie's a good one to talk to. Do a Fix My Fleet with Ollie. That would be fantastic.
I have watched his stuff, and I often roll my eyes. I shit you not. So yeah, it would be interesting. I might reach out and see if he wants.
I did say earlier. I posted a center fleet by someone who was asking something, and it was, 2 javelins, and I posted in chat because I was talking to some of the other guys, and people said, "Is that your fleet, Al?"
Oh dear. Small time. I don't think we can ever post Algrid's. And also one of the things, like if those who have watched Fix My Fleet, we did, but we skirted around it.
Yeah,
because we didn't want that to get out there how much he'd spent, because we were really, we're always, we have to walk a line between loving this game and criticizing this game, but we don't want to damage this game. Yeah. So we don't want to put a sledgehammer into we don't want to give the media fuel for their fire,
Yeah. I think it's more than that, Aurelius.
Yeah. Let's just say he's past the Legatus, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Sandy told me to stop.
Yeah. Which is where the old man Al Hurston joke came from, actually. It literally is.
I actually think, Paul, it is only fair that we get Algrid to draw up a will where when he passes, his ships are evenly distributed between all the Inforunners. I think that is a fair compromise, and I think we should really actually get that done. I'm not even kidding, Algrid, because Paul gets a javelin, I get a javelin, Space gets a javelin, Badgers gets all your purchases. Like, we can div it all up.
Fleet Viewer couldn't show my fleet; it crashed.
Yeah. Literally, we literally couldn't do it on the Fleet Viewer. It would crash the Fleet Viewer.
It crashed.
Yeah.
So
we'll just say that the PTV was invented for people like Algrid. to be able to go through all of those their hangars. But
I remember
No,
that he was like,
I don't have a personalized Redeemer.
no.
I don't even have a personalized Javelin.
yeah.
I will finish this off by saying the joke was that Sandy reached out and told them to stop because Algrid is the $1 millionth dollar or
100 million,
100
100 million, 200 million, to 150 million. Yep.
150 million. He has those three, and it's not because he just didn't stop spending. It's that he knew when to buy. He calculated and be like, I'll do this, and he figured it out and nailed it. And so that's when Sandy reached out and said, stop buying. After the third time, he got that thing. So what do you want? Hurston?
Well, it was I'd been saying, look, they used to give rewards for people across America. So we don't need rewards. Everyone who's a backer has contributed to this. So if you just give one person this reward, it sucks. Everyone.
And I think after they gave you that reward too, some guy complained because he was the 125 million, so he wanted one as well or something.
No. Apparently,
what was that guy? Because you got a scythe for 100 million.
That was 100 million, and I understand that they actually announced that they're doing both at the same time. The 75 million and 100 million are both getting a scythe, and my understanding is the person who got 175 had complained, but I didn't care. My view for 100 million, it's an awesome title. We're never going to need more than this. It's got to be an awesome ship. I'll buy a Javelin.
Yeah.
So Paul, he's got 2 scythes, and I'm trying to pressure the crap out of him to let him gift me one. I want one because they're so expensive. I'll pay him for it. No, you can call in a favor. I'm going to make you call in a favor. I want that scythe, Algrid. I'm going to get it off you somehow. I'll get it in your will. That's how I'm going to get it. When Algrid mysteriously dies, it's not my fault. Honest.
The story was when we're talking about the 200 million, and I said to Sandy, what do I get? A moon? What do I get? And she said, what do you want, Hurston?
Yes.
I said, no, they've strip mined it. So that's where it came.
You should have done.
Well, I will say this: if any of the narrative team ever hears this, what we'd ask you to do for the $200 million reward is have Al Hurston or be an actual character in the verse, even if it's a historical character that is one of the CEOs of Hurston Dynamics, just as a nice little nod to being like, we got you. A statue. Give him a golden statue. Give Al a golden statue. All right. I even have
Paul heard the story and called me old man Al Hurston, and that generated the. No, Paulie, that's not a very nice thing to say.
And to finish this all off, if you want to help out a charity and you want to get yourself an old man Al Hurston poster, because I hired an artist to do a post picture of Algrid as a Hurston in the same style as all of the Hurston portraits you see in
Maria Pure of Heart,
and Maria Pure of Heart, and in the Constantine's office and all that. So I have that. That's print available. All of the sales proceeds go to charity, and it will be gone at the end of October. So the end of October, I will no longer sell them. So if you want a chance to get an Al Hurston, an old man Al Hurston thing, go for it right there.
Now there was a question right at the beginning, which is which size would you recommend?
I would recommend the biggest size. The biggest size. The size that's just smaller than the biggest size also has the least border. It has the smallest kind of like picture to frame ratio. But the biggest size does have a nice big frame. So if you put it into like if you want to cut it out, or if you want to put it onto a nice big frame.
I did see one of the guys had got one with a frame, and it looked really good.
You can buy them with a frame in the shop too.
I think he bought it with a frame, and it looked really, really good. So
just waiting for you guys to invent a lore-based space hobo and name it after me.
Well, there's
put that on a poster.
Execute. I will say this before we finish it up, which is there was a crazy dude who thought he could invent faster than light travel. He got himself into a ship. And exploded as a result. We don't know what happened to him, but he believed he was faster than everyone, and he spent years as a hermit in isolation trying to calculate it up there. So if anything, if I have any pull with CIG, just take a picture of Execute and have him be the face of the guy who's sitting there going, I can do it. I can beat light speed. With all of this yammering, I've been trying to end this for the last 20 minutes. So
Right.
This
yes,
wouldn't be in for us. This is like what happened when an episode ends. Like we just sit there talking afterwards or beforehand. Yeah.
All of the time. So check out the Inforunners. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and join us live on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub on Saturdays to ask your own questions. Ask your own questions in chat in the comments below on YouTube. As I said before, we always read all of the questions. We don't necessarily respond to them, but we do always read them, make sure they're succinct to the point. Try not to go on too many tirades and rants because it's kind of gloss over those. It's really hard to read those because there are sometimes, especially with the popular episodes, there can be 50 to 200 comments that you have to filter through. So please do that. And yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.